Hey friends, I'm Amy, a health coach here at Flip Your Leaf, and today we're going to talk about how we talk about FODMAPs. Now, if you're new to the FODMAP camp, the word FODMAP sounds ridiculous because it's an acronym for fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. And all that means is that these are short chain carbohydrates or little chains of sugars that are rapidly fermented by our gut bugs. So there are a couple of things that happen for foods that fall under the FODMAP umbrella, and that is one, some of them pull an excess amount of water into the gut in the small intestine, and second, ones that make it into our large intestine or our colon are then fermented by our gut bugs, and because they're so tiny, your gut bugs can just munch them up super quickly, and we end up with things like excess gas, we get cramping, we get bloating and distension. It's just a big old mess in there. So there are two ways that people generally talk about FODMAPs. One is by the chain length and the second is by the FODMAP group, and it's important that you know both of these because you might find that some people online or on your healthcare team are calling them one thing and other people are calling them something else. And so it's really important that you can marry these two things in your brain on your own so that no matter who you're talking to, you're always on the same page. So we're going to start with chain length, and this brings us back to the FODMAP acronym, which is really describing the chain lengths of all the different FODMAPs that we test throughout the FODMAP diet. So the first one is monosaccharides, and that is one sugar molecule all on its own. Then we have disaccharides, which are two molecules bonded together. Then we have oligosaccharides, which are 3 to 10 molecules bonded together, sometimes a few more. We'll get to that in a second. And then finally, we have polyols, which are kind of a wild card. They're kind of, an entity onto themselves. They're under the FODMAP umbrella because they do the same thing as other FODMAPs. They pull in water, they're easily fermented, but they're actually sugar alcohols. And so what this is these are chains of like hundreds of molecules long. They're very different than the other carbohydrates tested in the low FODMAP program. And so it's kind of important to remember that these are a bit of a wild card. So those are the chain lengths, the oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. Then we move into the FODMAP groups, which describe sort of the things or the entities that are described by these chain lengths. So when we're talking about FODMAP groups, we'll do them in the same order that we did the chain length, just so that you can sort of match them together in your brain. You want to grab a Post-it note, that's totally fine. So we're going to start with fructose because fructose is a monosaccharide, and that means that it's one molecule traveling through your body all on its own. So there are many foods that actually include fructose that are totally fine for you, like table sugar has fructose in it. What we're really looking for is fructose in excess of glucose. So it's this fructose that's sort of freestyling through your digestive tract. So that is one molecule all on its own. Then we have disaccharides, which are those two molecules bonded together. And for the low FODMAP diet, the only disaccharide that we test is lactose, and that's found in dairy products. Then we have oligosaccharides, and there's actually two pieces to the oligosaccharide camp. The first is fructans, and fructans actually come in a couple of different chain lengths. So these ones are really cool. We actually end up testing them a couple of times just to make sure that, if you're reacting to one chain length, that you might not be reacting to, the whole spectrum of fructans. And so we have two sort of buckets in the 3 to 10 molecule category. And so this is 3 to 10 sugar units that are bonded together. And then we have another category, which is more than 10 sugar units. And these ones we call inulin. You might find that listed as dietary fiber. You might find it listed as chicory root, but these are just really long fructans. And the second part of the oligosaccharide group is galacto-oligosaccharides. And so like I said, there's two sort of buckets in this group. We've got the fructans and we've got the galacto-oligosaccharides. And that one's a bit of a mouthful, and so you might hear people call them GRS or GOs. So again, the final group that we have are these polyols. These ones are a little bit harder to spot on labels because they kind of have weird names. You can usually find them though. They're listed as like ol, so like xylitol or sorbitol or mannitol or maltitol. That little OL on the end is a dead giveaway. Also, if something says that if it's consumed in excess, it may be a laxative, it's very likely that there's a polyol in there. Okay, so that was a ton of information about how we talk about FODMAPs. So just to recap, there are two ways that we're going to talk about FODMAPs. One is by their chain length, which again, think about that FODMAP acronym that's describing all the chain lengths. And then the second is by FODMAP group. So we have fructose, we have lactose, we have fructans, we have oligosaccharides, and we have polyols. And so there are a couple of ways that you might hear people talk about these things. And so, if you want to write all this down on a Post-it note, just sort of keep it handy while you're getting the hang of things, that would be totally totally fine. If you want more information about understanding IBS, about understanding the low FODMAP diet, definitely hop in my newsletter. I go over a ton of this stuff in more detail, in less detail. We talk about it from a whole bunch of different angles, sort of how to put the low FODMAP diet into practice, how to put it, in action in your lifestyle. There are a ton of tips in there. You get discounts in the FODMAP formula shop when we have sales. You get access to my free VIP library, which has a ton of free printables and downloads to really make your low FODMAP diet as easy as possible. So I'm going to pop the link in the description box below. Definitely sign up. You're going to have a blast. Even if you're not a beginner, there's tons of information in there for everybody. I'm going to pop the link below and make sure that you get in there. But before you go, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. You are going to get so much more information on managing your IBS, managing a FODMAP lifestyle, and really just how to make your body feel like home. I'll see you in my next video.